What if the barbs of a barbed wire affection, hurled like confetti at a funeral for your solitude, landed not as wounds but as invitations to a dance you never learned, the staccato rhythm of a door key scraping like nails on chalkboard in the hush of your sanctuary, the saccharine sting of strawberry gum on your tongue from a pilfered piece, fingertips grazing yours with the static shock of unspoken static, the faint ozone whiff of overheated laptops mingling with the lavender ghost of a girl's shampoo, and doorframes framing a silhouette that's equal parts sprite and specter, her grin a crescent moon mocking the man in the mirror who swore off such symmetries? This is the torment of targeted tumult, where one girl's glee gleans grievances from your guarded heart, mirroring the relentless ribbing of siblings in Chekhov's orchards. Not malice, but the merciless mercy of forcing you to feel, to falter, to fall into the farce of fondness amid the fear of forever alone. Teasing as tether, identity as illusion, hope's hook baited with humiliation's herring. On October 5, 2025, as October's amber light slanted through schoolroom blinds like hesitant spotlights on a stage set for stumbling soliloquies, my friend's little sister has it in for me. Asterisk Tomodachi no Amato Ga or Ni Dake Yuzai asterisk debuted its first episode, the opening gambit in a 12-part pas de deux of rom-com riffs that pirouettes from light novels' labyrinthine laughs to animated effervescence, kickstarting an arc where adolescent algorithms clash with adult arrangements. It enchants from the eavesdrop, a protagonist's pragmatic parry against a pixie's persistent pranks, a familial favor that folds cousins into courtship's cruel charade, all laced with indie dreams deferred, teasing the tangle without tying the knot. Like the awkward after-school echoes in freaks and geeks' garages, where one offhand jab jars the jaded into jittery joy, it positions you in the doorway, key cold in your palm, laughter lapping at your lobes like waves on a worry-worn shore. Have you ever had a haunt in human form, her japes jabbing at the joints of your jadedness, leaving you wondering if the sting signals salvation or sabotage? That's the spell here. Not the sister's scheme, but the shiver in your spine craving why her barbs alone breach your barricades. Turn the knob. The chaos calls, coy with confessions concealed in the fluorescent flicker of a high school humming with half-formed hierarchies. Episode 1 awakens Akitaru Oboshi from the light novel's inaugural irreverence. Volume 1's volley of vexations, akin to the sibling skirmishes in The Sound and the fury where Faulkner's phrase fray familial facades, catapulting him from efficient isolation into a whirlwind of whimsical woes. No prior episodes to prelude this premiere's plunge. We trail his tenure with the Fifth Floor Alliance, a ragtag cadre crafting code and camaraderie in cramped confines, shadowed by best friend Ozuma's orbit and the orbital annoyance of his sibling Iroha, whose incursions, keys jangling like jailers' jests, raps ricocheting off walls like rebel anthems, contrast her classroom's composed crown. Amid math class mandates and mentors' mirthless mien, a sleazy summons from Uncle's empire ensnares, a sham suitor's suit for sheltered kin, Mashiro's transfer a tidal wave of thunder trepidation, her white tresses trailing like wedding veils in waiting, snippets sparkle, studio sessions shrouded in secrecy, pop culture pastiches parading in previews, alliances alchemizing ambition into artifact, all arcing toward an after-hours accord where pretenses precariously perch. It's a brisk blueprint, this episode, from Solitude's script to Suitor's snare, filaments flickering like faulty fluorescence. What whimsy warrants such willful whims? How does a door's breach betoken deeper breaches? You lean against that lintel, gum sweetness souring on your molars, her silhouette sharpening in the spill of screen light, pulse pitching to the prank's unpredictable pitch, famished for the farce's full flourish. The end credits eddy, but the enigmas eddy deeper, droll, demanding, daring you to decode the din. Episode 1 accelerates like a glitchy game demo, zippy yet zip-tied to the light novel's Volume 1 blueprint, chapters 1 to 3, hurtling from Akitaru's axiom of annoyance as antithesis to the uncle's ulterior ultimatum, fidelity to the source's snappy setup sans its soliloquy sprawl. Revelations ripple rapid, the teasing's tailored tenor, the alliance's aspirant alchemy, Mashiro's mandated masquerade as faux flame, a cliffhanger creaking with cousinly consternation, Iroha's ire igniting in inadvertent ignition as alliances teeter toward tangle. No narrative nosedives. Instead, a surge from setup to snare, pacing a punchy parody that poises rom-com romps with relational riffs, dramatic equipoise echoing the novel's nimble narrative, where exposition explodes in emojis rather than essays, fan-flagged, cloudy aspects, Iroha's ingress, Key's provenance prank or pact, Mashiro's migration, Bully's backlash or Bloodline's bid, the sham's sustainability, incest's inkling or industry's ploy, dissolve in the light novel's limelight. Chapter 1 codifies Iroha's access as adolescent autonomy's artifact, a spare key from Ozuma's oblivious oversight, her studio stint a stealthy sideline to voice acting's veiled vocation. Mashiro's exodus from elite enclave stems from Suitor's siege, per Volume 1's veiled vignettes, the anime's abbreviated allusions, a father's flustered flimflam, her frosty flinch, honing this without haze, framing the frame as farce's foundation. Its erudite escalation, this ebb morphing miasmas to mirages, evocative of clueless shares clueless couplings, where one contrived contract confounds kin. Here, it hooks you to hack the hierarchy, cursorily curious. Akitaru anchors as archetype's antidote, his efficiency a exoskeleton over existential ennui, motivations mined from the novel's marrow, youth's yield to pragmatism's yoke, choices like trope trashing a testament to tempered tenacity. Wounds whisper in wry wisecracks, a friend's fealty as fragile firewall, dialogue droll yet discerning, surprising in its steadfast scorn for rom-com rote, transformative as the novel's nod to his narrative noose. Iroha erupts as ID's imp, her honor student's husk hiding histrionic heart, growth glimmers in gleeful guile. Manga's Chapter 2 unveils undercurrents of approbation's ache, her jabs consistent in chaos yet yielding yanks toward yearning. Mashiro manifests as means mosaic, her reserve a rampart against relational roulette. The uncle's unctuous urgency unveils voids of validation. Their silhouettes sharpen as crucibles. Akitaru's acquiescence, less abdication than adroit advance. Iroha's incursions, fissures in facade's finery. Were they transformative? Tellingly, akin to when Harry met Salia sparring sparks, where banter births bedrock. I anticipate Iroha's impishness irking into intimacy. What teasing tempest in your tapestry tugs at the threads of true tether? Annoyance alchemizes to affinity's essay. Does derision denote desire, or does the derided dictate devotion's dialect? It palpitates in Akitaru's apathy, wrestling whimsy's wolf in woolen tropes, his hedges a dialectic of detachment and dawning draw, and Iroha's irreverence, morality's mischievous maze where sacrifice salts the self for spotlight's shine, hope's haphazard hail against despair's domestic drone. Beyond Billings, it burgeons in Mashiro's mandate. A Sartrean stare-down querying can contrivance catalyze connection, the coerced court the candid, resonant as pride and prejudice's precipitous proposals, defying decorum for dignity's dalliance. Its vein-valved rumination, veining veins to our own vexed vexations. In the vignette of the vexed, what jest of juvenilia jests your jugular? Lore layers lightly like level-up loot, a scholastic sphere spliced with startup strivings, where fifth floor's fervent forays fringe familial fiefdoms, complicating the cosmos with the novel's Chapter 1 codex of indie incubators. Game devs' grassroots grit a counterpoint to corporate clutches, enriching the everyday without encumbrance. The apartment accretes from abode to arena, its axioms a archipelago of aspirations that allure as they augment. Script snaps like a save-state skip, poetic in its punchline's precision, lines like Akitaru's trope takedown cliché culled, laden with lore's levity, impactful as aphorisms that abide after applause like Twain's, snappy, synaptic, summoning the snark beyond the screen. Foreshadow frolics and flippancies, resonance in riposts that reverberate post-pilot, such as Iroha's rap a rhythmic riddle carrying rebellious relish. Its banter that bites, each barb a beacon. What winged word from your witty wars might wing the weight from your wings? Aesthetics evoke an emulator's effulgence. Fluid flourishes in frantic forays, symbolism in sapphire screens, scions crackling against crimson cheeks, channeling Scott Pilgrim's pixelated pugnacity, where lighting limbs levity's lace, shadows schooling siblings in silhouette's slyness. Stillness in Akitaru's stares sculpts stoicism's sigh, movement in Iroha's melee a maelstrom of manic mischief. Beauty betokens buoyancy's bite, molding mirth as a modem's murmur, merry, mordant, vantages vogue as vignettes vogue. Overheads on overheated huddles mirroring meshed mischiefs, visceral vignettes on vexed visages sinking to sentiment's surge, editing's effervescence a escalating eddy. Zippy zooms it mirrors marrow, Akitaru's ambit arcing from austerity to affray, Iroha's invading in iridescent eruptions, OST operates as oracle's opus, motifs of mischievous marimbas murmuring through synth swell surges, elevating elocutions to epic's edge, silence in setup suspense shriller than sibling squalls. Did that suspended synth, mid-mockery, mimic the held hitch of a heart's half-beat, etching like error in code? Haruki Ishiya's Akitaru airs in arid assurance, timbre a tempered terminal, intensity incarnating irony's itch. Sayumi Suzushiro's Iroha iridesces with impish incandescence, tremors teasing the tender under taunt's torrent, while Tamori Kusunoki's Mashiro mutes with measured melancholy, delivery a diaphanous drift. Stellar showings, voices not voicing but vibrating, vesting verve in vocal voltage. This episode electrifies with an ebullience that's equal parts exhilaration and exasperation. Iroha's irrepressible irks ignited irreverent chuckles in my chest like carbonated confessions, wonder welling in the warp of worlds colliding, moments of mirrored mockery leaving laughter's ligature, scars of schadenfreude sparking subversive sympathies. I felt fizzed, fortified in Akitaru's fortitude, echoing my own escapades evading affection's ambush where one off-kilter quip quickens the quick. Veiled in vignette's vivacity, the vertex vaults as vicinity's vivisecting in vibrant vibrant vortex, a fulcrum where feints fracture, fates fusing like the Breakfast Club's breakthrough birthing bonds from bunkers. It iterates indelibly. In the idiom of the irked, does one imp's impudence impel the infinite? You hoard it, this hilarity, philosophical pixels patterning private puzzles. What pint-sized provocateur in your playlist pricks the prickly path to paradise? The glitch gleams, unpatched, plug in, and play the prankster's part. Reverse rifling the riffs. Velocity's verve, fans flag as frenetic and characters cascade. Reframes as romcom's rocket, a stylistic simulacrum of startup sprint, mirroring the novel's narrative nitro to nitrate the nonsense's nectar. Clichés cling might cramp creativity, yet its thematic truss, tethering tropes to trenchant twists akin to clueless, quotable quagmires where quotients quicken quirks. Vocal variances veer vivaciously in villainy, read Vixen's verve, but this vivifies the vivisecting vapidity's veil. Adoration adheres, discerning dissection defers to delight. Flaws as fireworks in a festival of frolic. Episode 1 exalts in effervescent exchanges and evocative ensembles. It sprints slight stutter a sprightly spur. It consummates its caper, catalyzing clichés cash into cathartic cavalcade, narrative nerve netted with naughty nuance. To thumb one's nose at the tune-up is to tune out the tumult's tune. The door clicks, daring your deadlock. What if this impish interloper infiltrated your idol, her japes jarring the jam of your joy? The screen summons, siren sharp, surrender, and savor the sting of serendipity's slap. Have you ever tasted the ash of a word unsaid, lingering like the metallic tang of blood on your tongue after biting back a retort? Or felt the ghost of a touch, fingers brushing your sleeve in a crowded hallway, electric as lightning veiled in summer rain, that promises warmth but delivers a shiver of doubt? In the shadowed corridors of high school, where identities fracture like porcelain under the weight of others' gazes, My Friend's Little Sister Has It In For Me, Episode 2, aired on October 5, 2025, unfurls this exquisite torment. Nestled in the fledgling arc of Eikitaru Owaboshi's double life, juggling a fabricated romance with his best friend's impish sibling amid whispers of a fledgling game development empire, it probes the eternal skirmish between loathing and longing, much like the barbed flirtations of Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy in Austen's drawing rooms, or the coded barbs of wartime lovers scribbling notes in the margins of history's brutal ledgers. I emerged from this episode not just intrigued, but ensnared, a fly in amber, suspended in the honeyed sting of half-revealed secrets. What if the girl who torments you is the only one who truly sees you? The air thickens with that question, doesn't it? You can almost hear the distant echo of lockers slamming shut, smell the chalk dust of unspoken confessions, pulling you inexorably toward the screen, where answers dangle just beyond the frame, building from episode 1's precarious pact, where Eikitaru agrees to masquerade as Iroha's devoted paramour to shield her from suitors' snares, all while dodging her gleeful jabs like a matador in a bullring. This installment catapults us into the school's coliseum. Eikitaru navigates a summons to the counselor's lair, a den that reeks of contrived chaos, where professional boundaries blur into personal pandemonium. Meanwhile, the classroom erupts in ripples of rumor as a new transfer student stakes her claim, her words slicing through the humdrum like a guillotine's whisper. Teasing escalates from sly whispers to audacious antics, a piggyback dash through sun-dappled grounds, the brush of fabric or its brazen absence, igniting sparks of scandal. Yet amid the farce, alliances flicker into view, silhouettes of future comrades on the 5th floor of a nondescript apartment block, hinting at a creative cabal yet to coalesce. It's a pivot from intimate deceptions to public spectacles, each event a thread tightening the noose of Eikitaru's divided world. Imagine yourself there, heart hammering against your ribs as eyes turn, judgments forming like storm clouds. Do you laugh it off, or does the ground tilt beneath you? The episode doesn't hand you resolution. It thrusts a key into your palm and locks the door behind, daring you to turn it. Episode 2 propels the narrative with the velocity of a pachinko ball, ricocheting from private pacts to public proclamations, cementing the rom-com's foundation while teasing the harem-adjacent ensemble ahead. Key revelations bloom like cherry blossoms in a gale. The introduction of Mashiro Shina catapults the fake relationship trope into overdrive, her bold classroom decree a plot twist that cascades into comedic carnage, echoing the explosive entrances of heroines in classics like The Taming of the Shrew, where a single utterance upends the social order. Pacing hums with deliberate frenzy, balancing slapstick skirmishes against quieter breaths of vulnerability, culminating in a cliffhanger that dangles the specter of entangled lies like Damocles' sword. Dramatic equilibrium holds firm, though fans murmur over cloudy aspects. That dungeonesque counselor's office, for one, a grotesque caricature that begs, is this satire or setup? Drawing from Light Novel Volume 1, Chapter 3, and cross-referenced in the manga adaptation's early chapters, it's no anomaly but a hyperbolic homage to the source's absurdist humor. The room's accoutrements stem from the counselor's clandestine clandestine doujinshi pursuits, a visual pun on binding creative deadlines and adolescent angst. Similarly, Mashiro's simmering grudge over a nebulous toilet incident, light novel volume 2 elucidates it as a mangled memory from her prior school's bullying saga, not mere pettiness, but a scar from peers mocking her reclusive artistry during a vulnerable moment, a lunchroom taunt while she was absent for personal reasons, fueling her transfer and Tsundere armor. These clarifications, absent in the animation's brisk cut, transform opacity into intentional allure, inviting rereads like footnotes in Joyce's Ulysses. The episode advances the arc toward the Fifth Floor Alliance's genesis, where Akitaru's uncle's game studio becomes a refuge for misfits, foreshadowing survival through satire, much like the underground presses of dissidents in Orwell's Shadows. The souls here, they bleed ink and fire. Akitaru evolves from beleaguered bystander to sly strategist, his retorts sharpening like a blade honed on Iroha's relentless whetstone. In flipping the script on his counselor, he claims agency, a quiet triumph reminiscent of Odysseus outwitting Polyphemus, his hidden wound, the sting of romantic rejection, fueling a motivation to reclaim control. Iroha, that gremlin goddess of provocation, unveils layers beneath her barbs. Her brilliant schemes, a collar and leash farce, say, mask a flicker of jealousy, her choices consistent yet transformative, whispering affections in the language of torment, as if echoing the masochistic dances of lovers in Butterly's erotic philosophies. Mashiro, the Ice Queen interloper, surprises with Tsundere tremors, her haughty commands belying a psyche fractured by isolation, her growth a hesitant thaw, choices rooted in self-preservation that surprise even her. Dialogue rings true. Akitaru's weary quips land with the precision of a Socratic gadfly, probing without piercing. Iroha's taunts, laced with Alalalu echoes of detective show flair, foreshadow deeper bonds. Were they transformative? Undeniably, each exchange peels back a stratum, leaving characters raw, relatable, as if you've shared their exhales in the afterglow of argument. Beyond the rom-com veneer, Episode 2 excavates the chasm between facade and frailty, power wielded through pretense, where teasing becomes a morality play on consent and camouflage, mirroring the survival tactics of courtiers in Machiavelli's courts or the veiled hostilities of online avatars today. Sacrifice simmers in Akitaru's dual roles, boyfriend by contract, savior by default, questioning hope versus despair. Does enduring the tease forge connection, or merely delay the fall? These manifest viscerally in Mashiro's armored arrivals, her choices a desperate gambit against erasure, much like Camus' Sisyphus rolling his boulder with defiant grin. Hope glimmers in the Alliance's embryonic promise, a collective against isolation, while despair haunts the silences, where unspoken wounds fester like untreated thorns. New lore trickles in sparingly but potently. The school's underbelly, from fetish-fueled offices to rumor mill classrooms, complicates the mundane into a microcosm of adult absurdities, enriching the universe with the game dev firm's impending pull. A haven where Yuzai, annoying, evolves into synergy. Cultural rules of high school hierarchy gain teeth, turning hallways into history's agoras, where one confession rewrites reputations. The script crackles like static on a forgotten radio, sharp as a rapier's thrust, poetic in its profanity-light playground. Lines like Iroha's conspiratorial purrs carry foreshadowing weight, blooming post-credits into resonant echoes. Clichés, the jealous Tsundere, twist into surprises, impactful as a slap that stings with truth. It's the banter of life's unscripted improv, where every zinger, comparable to the witty volleys in When Harry Met Sally, connects you to the fray. Can you feel the heat rising in your cheeks as Iroha leans in, her breath a conspirator's secret? The words don't just advance, they seduce, leaving you adrift in their wake, craving the next barb to break the surface tension. Studio Blade's art direction pulses with rom-com vitality, fluid lines tracing Iroha's impish dashes, faces alight with exaggerated blushes that symbolize the blush of budding desire. Color palettes shift masterfully. The office's crimson shadows evoke infernal temptation, a visual metaphor for forbidden knowledge, while classroom fluorescents cast Mashiro in cool azures, her iciness fracturing in golden shafts during revelations. Stillness reigns in Akitaru's contemplative stares, movement erupts in chaotic chases. Beauty here isn't mere eye candy but a scalpel, carving emotional fissures. The play of light on sweat-beaded brows mirroring the slick dread of exposure, director's lens. Low angles empowering Akitaru's rare dominations, Dutch tilts amplifying the office's disorientation. tension, mirrors inner turmoil, editing's rhythmic cuts syncing to heartbeat pulses during teases, amplifying tension like Hitchcock's Rear Window. Voyeurism, shot compositions frame duets as duels, wide lenses capturing class chaos as a Greek chorus, every frame a mirror to the viewer's own adolescent entanglements. The OST emerges as a sly co-conspirator, its upbeat synths, capped by the opener, Yuza Kawakute Nani Jie Warui. What's wrong with being annoyingly cute? Haunting with earworm hooks that replay in your idle moments. Motifs swell in crescendos during confessions, a piano trill underscoring vulnerability like Debussy's whispers. Silence, though screams loudest. In the office's pregnant pauses, it amplifies the creak of unspoken leverage, burning auditory scars that linger like the hush after a slammed door. See you shine as soul weavers. Kana Hanazawa's Iroha drips sadistic silk, her timbre a velvet vice that embodies teasing's dual edge. Haruka Ishiya's Akitaru tempers exasperation with undercurrents of resolve, tremors betraying his fractures. But Hanakana's Kajishi steals the episode, her cold authority fracturing into exuberant squeals, intensity channeling the character's Jekyll-Hyde schism, each inflection a brushstroke on her hidden psyche. Their deliveries don't mimic, they inhabit, pulling you into the vocal fray as if you're the one stammering retorts. This episode carved into me like a winter wind through bare branches, laughter bubbling up to mask the ache of recognition, wonder sparking at the fragility beneath the frenzy. Moments like the classroom's frozen tableau left scars of second-hand embarrassment, a knot in the gut recalling your own bungled bravados. Others, quieter glances exchanged amid mayhem, ignited a spark of hope, the kind that warms like contraband coffee on a late-night cram session. Without unveiling the veil, the climax crashes as colliding orbits, a breaking point where pretenses splinter, destinies entwine in a maelstrom that reframes every prior jest. It stirs universal queries. In the theater of our lives, are we all actors in someone else's farce, or do the masks eventually melt into truth? Feel that pull, reader, the philosophical aftertaste, bitter as unrequited ink, sweet as stolen symmetry. Doesn't it gnaw at you, this half-heard symphony? What hidden harmonies wait in the wings, employing the reverse reading, peering through the flaw to unearth intent? Some pacing feels breathless, a torrent that might overwhelm the uninitiated, compressing source ambiguities into punchlines. The opacity of Mashiro's grudge or the office's eccentricity could baffle, veering toward opacity over clarity. Yet reframe. These are no missteps but stylistic sorcery, deliberate disorientations echoing the light novel's meta-humor on narrative contrivance, transforming potential pitfalls into thematic mirrors of confusion's comedy. Appreciation outweighs critique. The episode's irreverence redeems its indulgences, though a touch more breathing room might temper the whirlwind for purists. Measured, it's a bold swing. Not flawless, but fiercely alive to strengths. Episode 2 triumphs as a rom-com Rosetta Stone. Humor honed to hilarity, hearts bared in bursts, narrative propulsion that honors its source while inviting fresh folly. Weaknesses, fleeting phrase infidelity to the novel's sprawl, but they scarcely dull the shine. Artistically, it soars, a seductive spell of satire and sentiment, nailing its goal to tease the intellect while tickling the soul. Narratively, it propels with promise, forging a world where annoyance alchemizes into alliance. Yet here's the inexorable hook, the question that coils in your chest like smoke from a dying fire. What if the next jab, the one aimed at your own guarded heart, is the arrow that pierces the armor? Watching isn't a choice. It's the breath you didn't know you were holding, the step across the threshold into a hall of mirrors where your reflections tease back. Exhale into it. The episode awaits, whispering your name.